It is February 9th, 2024. Hey, Nick, do you know why Charles Barkley said Hakeem Olajuwon could never kick Kenny Smith's ass? He said
No.
because he was always too close to kissing it. What's up, y'all? We are the HoopStorians, and we are back and worse than ever. I'm Tony Styles. This is Neek. First off, let me apologize. I am having technical difficulties tonight, so that is why we are late. So sorry, but we're going to try and kick this off the best we can. Let's start off with this day in NBA history. You down, Neek?
Let's do it.
This day in NBA history, February 9th, 1980, Rick Barry for the Houston Rockets went 8 of 12 from the three-point line. He set the record for most threes in a game, a record that stood for 10 years till Dale Ellis broke it with 9 threes in 1990. Nate, what do you think about the record of 8 threes in a game, especially as frequent as we see 8 threes in a game now?
Well, I still remember the days when people weren't shooting threes at that volume. So because I watched the volume increase, I feel as though I seen it coming. I saw the development of the 3-point shooters over the years. So I know that they weren't shooting the volume. And because of that, it's not really that surprising to me. But just looking back to your point and seeing how much they shoot now, looking back to the days where they didn't, it is definitely something to consider.
Do you think we're shooting too many threes nowadays in the current NBA game? Because back in the day, they had the Princeton offense, the triangle offense. Now it seems like it's just, pace and space and spread out as far as you can. And it seems like it is a more three-point shooting league. And it seems like that is the focal point of every offense. So do you think we are too one-dimensional now, or do you think it's just fine? And do you think there's still the same amount of cutting? I mean, it seems to be we have completely lost the post-up game. There's very few players, consistently posting up now. So do you think that we have lost all the variables, or do you think there's more variables now, or where are you at with the current offenses in the NBA?
They definitely do shoot more threes now. It's hard to say because it looks like, as far as the 2-pointers, it seems like they're making the 2-pointers a little more difficult. So though the 3-pointers are increasing as far as how many they're shooting, and even the percentages seem to be going up with the 3-pointers, but it seems like with two, I don't know what's going on with the twos, but I'm seeing players that typically make the threes are the ones that are missing the twos now. It doesn't look like too many are focused on the mid range. So unless they're in the paint or unless they're shooting from behind the arc, most most things are clanking these days.
Can you I sent you some numbers today. Could you read off those numbers? Because I want to talk about the inefficiencies of the two versus the three and just wild games I'm seeing.
Okay. So we're gonna go with, it looks like the Lakers versus the Celtics games.
Yeah, it was the other
So
night. It was the Lakers Celtics, the one where LeBron and AD set, and then Austin Reeves went off. It was that game.
awesome. Okay. So from 2-point field goal, they shot a 32.8%. And from the three, it was actually 52.8% against the Celtics. We got Vanderbilt, he shot 25% from two, but then 67% from three. D'Angelo Russell, he shot 8% from two versus his 50% from three. Reeves, who you were just speaking about, he did the 38 from two, 70% from three. Hachimura, he did 25% from two with 50% from the 3-point line. Christian Wood, he went 0 from 5 from 2-point field goals, and he did 1 of 4 from the three. Tatum, he actually went 27% from two but 50% from three. And Hauser, he did 50% both. He 50% from two and 56% from three.
So, I mean, I think we can all agree, whatever faults of D'Angelo Russell that there are, he's still a very talented player. Maybe, he drifts, he goes in and out of games, he takes bad shots, but I don't think his talent's ever been in question. So,
Mhm.
can we explain how such a talented player like D'Angelo Russell, for example, and the game supposedly evolving and we're supposedly getting better, how can someone like that shoot 50 from three?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Shoot 50 for three, and what else?
I'm sorry, he was 50% from three and 8% from two. How do you explain that? He was 1 from 12 from two. We're supposedly he's a talented player. The game is evolving. We're supposed to be better. How are you shooting 8% from two?
That seems like a mental thing, to be honest. Because even if you're rushing shots, that's a lot of missed buckets from two to go 50% from three. Yeah, that definitely seems like rush. So it could be a combination of things. It could be the defense. It could be the matches. It could be they're forcing him into bad shots, or they're forcing him into the paint where he's going up against defenders, or maybe he's stepping inside of the line, but instead of sinking them like he would from three, just stepping inside a little bit. Like I said, maybe it's forcing him to pull that trigger a little quicker, and that's throwing him off.
It seems to me like someone, like I said, a D'Angelo Russell talent. It just doesn't make sense for you. I mean, I understand you have off games or anything like that, but there's no way that you are shooting an extremely efficient 50% from three, and you're shooting a paltry, inefficient 8% from two. So that's what I don't understand. And to me, that has to be a practice thing.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when everybody says Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time, I always do a little pushback on that. I think he's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. I see plenty of other people who's better at 2-point shooting and 2-point field goals than him, and that counts as a shot. So how are you the greatest shooter from this distance, but not from this distance? So that's why I think we need to do that. Also, look at someone like Jason Tatum, a top 10 player. I'm sure he's in the MVP chatter, obviously not on the higher echelon, but you got to mention him. He's got one of the best records in the league. He is the best player on the team. He's shooting 27% from two and 53% from three. To me, that just seems like they don't practice twos like they do, and it seems like we are really just focused on let's just who can make the most threes. Do you concur? You disagree? Where are you at on that?
I feel like that could definitely be the case. I mean, like we were saying earlier, we watched as the game evolved from most people are hitting the 2 pointers, most people are working on being in the paint, working on their mid range, to now everybody wants to just pull up. Everybody wants to shoot from as far back as they possibly can. We watched this evolve when players like Clay and Steph got that green light. Once people started seeing what they can do, the league started building teams around players that can shoot. So players are now, I mean, you hear from NBA players when they watch kids in the gyms these days. Instead of the typical mechanics, instead of the typical walk into the gym, you do your workouts, you do your warm-ups, you do your layups, and you step back with the jumpers, and you step back until you've made shots before you make it to the three-point line. They're walking into the gym and they're just hoisting up threes. And that's can be said about a lot of the NBA players as well. Their focus is on three-pointers because at the end of the day, if you can go 50% from three, why not shoot more of those instead of the twos when you're gonna make more points off the threes? So I think that's a focus.
In your opinion, do you think that hurts or hinders the game? Do you think there should be a more well balanced offense, or do you like the long ball? You like the 40 footers, or do you miss post ups? Do you miss the mid range game? Do you miss the Jordan, the Kobe crossovers, pulling up into an 18-foot jumper, the Tim Duncan working 16, 14, 12 feet off, hitting the bank shots? Where are you at on that?
I mean, I like it all. To be honest, I definitely like the long ball, but at the same time, I was a fan of the high flyers. I'm a fan of people that can post up and everything. So seeing some diversity is great. But at the same time, I'm not mad that we're seeing players that would typically be one dimensional, or seeing players that would typically just live in the paint being able to step out and hit threes. Like, it's great seeing somebody, because Wemby Wemby is the type of player that you're gonna see once in a lifetime. Just the way he moves, the fact that he has a jumper. Like, well, I can't say that because we do got players like KD and stuff, but KD's not 7 feet. He's not a legit 7 feet. So it's
He's
not
not seven
common,
foot three either.
right? So it's not common to see a player of that stature be able to not only handle the ball but shoot the ball like that. And that comes from the style of play these days. Because before, a 7 foot dude wouldn't even think to step out there and be shooting threes. But now you got people like who Carl Anthony Towns, who is a big man, can win a 3 point contest. So I do like that. I don't think it necessarily hurts the league. I mean, it can, to some people. They get tired of seeing, just threes all around. So to some people, I get how that could be boring to them if they want to see more. But for me, I don't feel like it necessarily hurts the game, because we had some seasons where the most exciting teams were the Warriors. And at that time, they were exciting because they were shooters. I take it your opinion is it hinders.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you.
I said I take it your opinion is the threes, just 3 point selections is hindering the game.
I don't know. I don't know if 3 point selection is just hindering the game. What I'm saying is when I see an entire team shoot 20% better from three than they do from two, I think there's something wrong there. Because just simple math says, you should be able to shoot better at 18 feet than 26 feet. So I don't know where it's going, especially when you're shooting, as one player did, D'Angelo Russell shot 8% from two and 50% from three. I think that is something that we need to look at. Just like, for example, back in the day, I didn't like people shooting, 52% from two and they were shooting 20% from three. I just think there needs to be more of a balance. I do understand that since it is worth a point extra, obviously shooting at a third of a clip at the 3 point line is worth shooting at 50% at the 2 point line. I completely understand that. Like I said, the numbers are just shocking to me how much better they are better at shooting 3 pointers than they are 2 pointers.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we can definitely look more into that, see if it's an all around the league thing and for how long it's been happening. I mean, yeah, there's definitely something to explore.
Well, let's keep it moving with the players that we currently have. Unless you want to get into something different, but I want to ask you: do you think the top 5 players in the league right now are all foreign born and not in the USA?
Well, first of all, do you have who you consider to be the top 5 players of the league? I do have a top five. You got a top five?
Well, I don't necessarily. I don't know if this is the top 5, but I think if you put these 5 guys in the top 5, I don't
Hmm.
think anybody's going to look at you like you're insane with the way they're
Okay.
playing, with the way their teams are doing, and things like that. So you got Luca, you have Joel, you have Giannis, you have Shea, and then you also have Jokic.
Okay. And Shay's born where? Toronto? He was born in what, Canada?
Yeah, he was born in Canada.
So nobody on that list you just named was born in the USA.
And that's what I'm asking you. Do you think those are the top 5 players in the NBA right now, or do you think there's someone else?
I do agree. Those are the top five in the NBA right now. Yeah, I mean, however you want to rank them from 1 to 5 is anybody's prerogative, but I definitely think those are the top five. Given the fact that those are the top five and none of them were born in the US, it would seem as though there's a foreign invasion. Nothing wrong with it, but it will seem as though our best players are not homegrown anymore.
Do you think we should do something like with an all-star team if the 5 best are foreign, USA versus the world like they do in hockey or anything like that? Or do you think we should keep current All Star format with the All Star game coming up, current format the same? Or do you think that we are having such an influx of overseas talent, same continent talent, but obviously not overseas? Do you think we should switch formats like that, or do you think it should still stay the same?
I mean, the All-Star game is always evolving and changing anyway. So why not? Why not try something new? Because for however long basketball continues, it's gonna be something new that they bring to the table at some point for the All-Star game. So that could be definitely something to try, especially when we're having so many different players from overseas or from different countries come over here and show that these players can ball too. And not only that, but they can ball with the greats and also be considered in that light and a legend in their own rights. So yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope to switch it up from time to time, or at
And
least once.
obviously, too, I just want to say this. I'm not saying that that this is just how they've been playing so far through the first, 50 games or so. Um, just for example, like Joel Embiid, I would much rather have like a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant in the playoffs over him until he shows we can get out of the second round. Same thing goes for a Steph. Shea, we've never even seen him in the playoffs as the man, so we have no idea how he'll handle that pressure. So, do you think you would put some of these USA players or some of these old players that have been tried and true? Do you think you would elevate them over any of those players that I just named for the playoff run?
For the playoff run,
Yes, that's correct for the playoff. Like, would you put KD over Shea? Would you rather have KD over Luca? Would you rather have any of them over in the playoffs? Just for this season, obviously, because I don't think anybody would pick KD or over Luca for the long run. But for the playoffs, this year, would you elevate? Because KD's playing amazing this year. LeBron is playing amazing for his 21st year, although he's not playing as amazing as he has in years prior. So that's what I mean. Would your ranking change going into the playoffs, or would you still say, no, give me those five guys over anybody else?
I think my rankings will still. So the way I see it is, I will still view these as the top five so long as they continue to play at the level that they have been. But once the playoffs occur, that's not to say that I necessarily trust them more than the tried and true players. So that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to put my money on them over, say, a KD. But I can still acknowledge that they may be better than him at this point in his career or at this point in the season. But I've already seen what he can do in the playoffs, so I might trust him a little more than them. Does that
So
make
so
sense?
let's go with this. So just based off this year, let's say out of all the older players that have won like an MVP that are still obviously playing at MVP levels and can argue they're the best on their team. Like Russell Westbrook cannot argue he's the best on his team. I don't think James Harden can argue that he's the best on his team. But KD, I think, has an argument. He's the best on his team. Obviously, Steph. I think LeBron has an argument too. Although Anthony Davis has been playing amazing this year. Like we'll just use those three. So if like the Oklahoma City said, "Hey, I'll trade you Shea for a playoff run for any one of those three," would you pick him over for this run or would you not? And the same goes for all of them: Doncic, Embiid, Joker, and Giannis.
I mean, that company that he's in, I feel as though it would be a fair trade for any one of these players. I feel as though I could do an even trade of a Doncic for a Shea or even a KD for a Shea. Um,
So that's what I'm asking. So if you were the Suns, would you rather have KD for your run or would you rather have Shea for your run?
I don't know that there's necessarily a prep. I mean, because KD's already been in the system, I'll probably go KD. I don't feel as though Shea will bring much more to the team than what KD is already, maybe a few more points, but I don't feel as though it'd be that much it'd be that extreme of a difference to justify me going, you know what, I'd rather have him over KD.
What about like KD or Steph or Luca in the playoffs, or would you rather just roll with Luca?
Luca in the playoffs, I think I'll roll with him.
And then what about Embiid?
I'm not rolling with Embiid in the playoffs. Embiid hasn't shown me anything that's worth me following him into the playoffs.
And then obviously, I think you would probably rather keep Giannis and Joker over any of them since they've already proven they can be the best player on the title team.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's what I was wondering. So we are in agreement that we think right now the five best players playing in the league right now are all foreign born. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, they doing it. They killing us right now.
Hmm. What do you think of the trade deadline? Any moves that stand out to you or no?
No, not. I mean, not so much. But you know what though? I haven't really much been following the trade deadline. So the only players that I heard move was Corey Joseph, and that means
Well,
nothing.
well, let me break you down some. Do you think Patrick Beverly is going to help fix Milwaukee's defensive woes?
No, no, I don't. Um, Patrick Beverly, though he's known for defense, remember what we're saying. We're in a league now where people are shooting threes anyway. So it's like as much as he wants to lock somebody down, nothing stopping a player from hitting them with the James Harden, where they're just going to the line. So it's like he's not really going to get that much of an opportunity to lock people down because since we're a pick and pop and a running gun type of league these days, that's all they got to do to keep him off defensively. All they got to do is just keep moving around and shoot. And if he's going to be aggressive, he's more than likely going to be in foul trouble. So I don't think he's going to be their answer defensively. Plus, we got to take into account things like he's getting older. Um, these players are getting quicker. Not to say that he can't keep up, but at the same time, everybody naturally is going to lose a step as their career goes on. So, no, I don't think Patrick Beverly is going to make that much of an impact.
What do you think? What do you think about Gordon Hayward to the Thunder? Do you think he'll add a veteran presence, or do you think he's just cooked?
If he can stay healthy, he is good for them and good for him. It's just a matter of can he stay healthy. So hopefully he does. Hopefully he can. And in that regard, yeah, that's a good look for them. That'd be helpful having that veteran presence. Somebody, what? I mean, he's at least good for what you think, like 10, 15. You feel me? As long as he's, like I said, healthy.
I I I
So,
think he's good for an efficient 8 somewhere in that round, especially with the young play. Well, if I was him, I'm bringing him off the bench. Obviously, I'm not trying to give him minutes, build around him, anything like that. I'm just looking for a guy that's been in a few playoff series, that a guy that's a former all-star, like I said, a guy that can bring a veteran presence. Like I said, my biggest thing with him would be locker room cohesion, and let's be efficient. I don't care if you score, like I said, 4 points. I just want them to let's go 2 for 2 on the 4 points. Let's go 3 for 5 for 6 points. So that's what I'm saying.
yeah, I think he can do that.
So that's where I would look at it. Other than that, it was kind of a boring trade deadline. Nobody really seriously moved. Spencer Dinwiddie, who at one point was pretty decent, he's available. They traded for him in Toronto, and then they immediately cut him. So we're gonna have to see where he lands. I hear he's gonna land with the Lakers. We'll see what's
That'd be a
what.
good look for him, though. I can see him playing in a system. He's a role player, so he can definitely give them an offensive punch coming off the bench. So that might be, if he goes to the Lakers, that might be good.
Well, I remember Spencer Dinwiddie a while ago. He said when we were talking about earlier about the evolution of the game, evolution of players, all that kind of stuff. He said, how did he put it? Oh, he said Jordan was 6'6" with a 40-inch vertical and was considered the most athletic. He said, well, I'm 6'6" with a 40-inch vertical, and nobody considers me athletic.
He ain't doing what Jordan did.
Well, obviously he's not doing what Jordan did.
So I mean,
But
that's the reason right there.
let's talk about some more players. Let's talk about the benching of Klay Thompson. Tell me what your assessment is of that.
So that's tough. The reason I say that's tough is because Though from the eye test, I see why Clay gets benched. It seems as though he doesn't contribute. It seems like he has lost a step. It seems as though he's not who he used to be from watching. The ironic thing is, over his career, Clay's averaging at this point 19.6 points over the whole career. With that, 3.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists. He is currently this season averaging 17.1 points a game, same 3.5 rebounds, same 2.3 assists. Since 2014 up until this season, actually, well, 2014 up until the 2023 season. And so that will be 2022 to 2023. He's still averaging at least 40% from both the field and 40% from three. So that's been consistent. This season he's only averaging 40% from the field and 37% from three. And he only had one other season in 2021 and 2022 where he played 32 games where he was only averaging 38% from three. But other than that, his numbers have been pretty consistent. So it's really a confidence thing. Maybe he's lost a step defensively. Maybe he's lost a step as far as his confidence with his lateral movement. They say he hasn't worked on anything, but Clay definitely dribbles more now than he used to. He doesn't have a crossover like say a Steph or Dame or the other shooter or Trey, other shooters like that. But at the same time, he does dribble and move around a little better now. He doesn't bounce like he used to, so he's not yamming like he used to. He's probably not as big of a defensive force, and it seems like his good games are less frequent and further between than what they used to be. So that might be the reason why he's being benched or he's being perceived as not really contributing. But according to the numbers, he's pretty much doing what he typically does. He's just not good for as many consecutive 20-point games as he used to be. What do you think?
Back into the thing of what I was saying about practicing threes. When you think of Clay, you thought of threes, and that's all you ever thought of. You don't think of post up. You don't think of dribbling. You don't think of cutting. Me and Devin Booker were actually talking about this years ago. We were talking about how much of a liability Clay's dribble is. He doesn't really have much of a dribble. He didn't work on his. He worked on a shot, and I think that's obvious. I never saw his dribble. I never saw his post up. I'm not saying that he never posted up or anything like that, but he did not have various different levels to his game. And we see now that if the 3-point shooting is going, then he's clearly not that effective. And that is where I think it is. And that's what I was kind of circling back into. Do we shoot threes too much? Because if Clay, couldn't hit threes, he's 6'7". He's bigger than most two guards. He could still post up. He could still be able to get a shot off. If you're that good a 3-point shooter, why can't you hit 14-footers? Why can't you hit 18-footers? Things like that. I'll tell you what was funny. In the locker room when Clay said, it's tough being benched, Draymond yells out from behind, and you can watch the clip if you haven't seen it. He goes, "You talking about getting benched?" He goes, "I got benched in game 5 of the finals. Who gives a fuck?"
That's
So
he got
that's
spoiled.
Draymond's take on it.
Yeah, he got spoiled, and I'm not saying it as any shade to Clay, but that's the honest truth. Like for a while, Steph and Clay, they were the golden boys for a while. You know, it was a given that they were going to the finals. It was given that they were going to be at least successful in the playoffs. It was a given that you were going to see them going a long run through this series. But I guess too many things got taken for granted, and now he's having that reality check. It's
Yeah,
really
it's
the
just
question of how good
yeah,
is he
it's
really?
just a far cry from those 37-point quarter games that he used to have.
Yeah, because and that was the thing. Before Clay will put together enough 40 enough 30-point games, enough 25 and higher games to counter when he's making only like 15, 10 and 15 and everything like that. But now because you see so many frequent games where he's scoring under 15 and then he'll hit you with like a 25 or a 30 or something to balance his scoring out, his average out. it's not consistent. And I think that's really the issue. The Warriors need some type of consistency because Steph is gonna have off nights. And it's like it's way too much pressure on him to be that go-to every single night when he doesn't have any consistent help. He's gonna get drained. And we see that.
Hey, speaking of Steph, though, I did want to ask you this because I know you're a huge Steph fan. Where do you rank this as Steph's greatest seasons? Like, do you think this is the best version of Steph, the second, the third, the fourth? Where do you rank him right now?
So off the top of my head, since I don't have the numbers, I'm gonna have to go with what I've been seeing of
Yeah, I
Steph.
just want the eye test from you.
So it seems like it's crazy. So with Steph, he's been consistent. Like s- his whole peak, it doesn't seem like it's ended. His wins and his losses have faltered. You feel me? His success in the playoffs have changed. But as far as Steph, Steph's been Steph the whole time. I don't even feel like he's falling off. If it actually seems like Steph is getting better year by year, even if his percentages aren't better year to year, he adds something to the bag. So it was like if Steph loses a step in speed, he gains more strength. You feel me? We're seeing Steph post up people these days. You feel me? We're seeing Steph run to the lane. So even though it doesn't seem as though teams are as afraid of Steph these days and doesn't seem like they're as affected these days, he's been consistently playing the same, is what it seems. That's another reason I was saying the pieces around him, because had they had a winning record, we might not see Steph falling out of the top 10, out of the top five. We might not see Steph as a reserve on an all-star team.
Do you think he can go till he's 40 at this clip, like a LeBron or anything like that? Do you think he's going to break down earlier? Do you think he's just going to retire? Do you think maybe he can play, till 40, but he's only getting like 16 a game? Or where do you see his longevity with the way that, because I didn't see Steph like this when he first came out. I didn't see him playing like this at 35.
I did. And on that, because he's still doing it, I don't think he's going to lose much of a step before the age of 40, because Steph is still right now at 35, averaging like 28 a game. So I feel as though he can make it another 5 years. And I feel as though if he makes it another 5 years, he's still going to be averaging at least 25. I say, well, maybe at most 25. I guess Steph, to the end of his career, he's going to be averaging 22 to 25 for the remainder of his career. That's what I see. And I think he's going to keep it at a consistent 40% from three, still going to be 90% from the free throw, still going to be 50% from the field. And those numbers might increase depending on, season to season, because you know how he do.
Let's kind of pivot off of like Clay. Let's go the opposite way. What do you think are some of the best games in the league in this season this year? Because I think Giannis's 64-point game doesn't get nearly enough credit because other people are scoring 70 and 73. I don't think it's the best game. I'm going to go with Embiid 70 and 18 over Luka's 73 and 10. That's where I'm at. I like I'm a boards guy. If I could dominate in any statistical category in the NBA, it would be the boards for me. So I do like the 70 and 18. However, I've never been a big proponent of where you're scoring 4 times as many rebounds as you get, especially in the especially when you're a big man. I don't like the 30. I think if you're getting 30, you should be getting 15. That's just how I've always felt. If you look at the old guys, like when Will was getting 50, he was averaging 25. Barkley, was getting 28 and 14 and things like that. Malone, not so much. And neither did Shaq, but like Robinson did, Hakeem did. So what game do you think is the best? And what good game do you think maybe is underrated? Like I thought the Giannis game of 64 was underrated.
Well, in my opinion, this season, that Giannis game that you're talking about with the 64 as well as Embiid, I feel as though those are the number one and two games of the season as far as individual plays.
Hold on.
The,
I get why you're saying Embiid. Please break it down why you think Giannis' 64-point game is over Luka's 73, because I think you're in the minority there. I'm not saying I'm not with you, but I'm saying I think listeners will be like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Well, part of the reason is because for one, Luca, he played 44 minutes. And even though that can take away from it, it's he scored 73 in 44 minutes. As far as the shooting goes, he went 25 of 33, but Giannis, he went 20 of 28. So you feel me? It's not like he's making that many more shots than what Giannis is making, but he's the shooter. Giannis isn't. Um, he went up against who was it? Atlanta. Atlanta's 10th in their division. So that's not to say or take anything away from Atlanta, but at the same
10th in the
time, that was
conference, you mean, right?
huh?
10th in the
Oh yeah, the
conference.
conference.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a team realistically that they were supposed to be. Um, they both got 4 turnovers. I feel as though Giannis doing 64 with 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal, whereas Luca, he got 10 boards, 7 assists. So he edged him with the assists, but he fell short with the board. They both got a steal. Luca didn't get any blocks. So
Do you feel if maybe it's harder to score 64 with no threes versus Luca hitting threes?
yeah, I do. Definitely. Luca hit 8 threes. That's good for
Well, right there,
24
that's
right there.
24 points.
You feel me? So I feel as though Giannis he had a harder fought 64 than Luca 73. And even with that, Luca only got 9 more points than him, but he got 24 from three. So that's why. And on that, I also as far as the number one and two, like I was saying, Embiid, the problem with the Embiid to me, the only problem with Embiid is he got 70 points against the Spurs. They're dead last in the league.
I mean, you did have Wimbiana, who's honestly up for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he's blocking shots like no other, stealing.
But
He's
here's the
got
thing
go
though.
gadget arms.
Yeah, I mean, as far as a matchup, but at the same time, what can you say when a person scores 70 on you?
Hey,
Like,
do you think that killed? Wait a minute, wait a minute. Do you think and that just reminded me of something else? Do you think Embiid scoring 70 on him killed his Defensive Player of the Year push?
no, I do not, because Embiid is for one, he was the lead until he got hurt. He was leading in MVP votes for the season, and he's already proven to be an MVP caliber player in the past. So at this point in time, it's the rookie up against the man who could very arguably have claims for the league right now. You feel me? He's one of the best players in the league. So I don't feel as though a rookie should hold his head low when somebody that great, especially when Wemby had a good game. Like, let's not sleep. Wemby didn't have a terrible game. It's just B scoring 70 overshadowed that as it should have. But it's not like he scored 70 on him and Wemby walked away with 5 points or nothing.
You factor in the Embiid minutes, like you said, Luca played 44 to get his 73. Embiid got his 70 and only 37.
That's right.
So are you more impressed with the higher? Because I've always been more impressed with the Kobe 62 and 3/4 than the 81. I've always thought that was more impressive, and you'll probably hear me say that over and over on this podcast. But so to me, that's more impressive. So do you think the 73 is more impressive or the 70? Because Luka did end up with what, the fourth most points in NBA history?
Yeah, the 70. The 70 is way more impressive. I mean, for the reasons you're saying, he did it in 7 less minutes. He had less turnovers. He got 18 rebounds. He's a big man shooting 21 from 23 from the free throw. So
So
yeah,
you got Luka 73 at the third most impressive game of the season?
I got that as a third. It was difficult as far as determining which was number one, because like I said, Joel did that against the Spurs, but at the same time, I'm gonna have to get at the number one spot. He did it in just as many minutes as Giannis.
Well, check this out. We're almost 40 minutes into this conversation. I've monopolized. What shit you want to talk about? Tell me what you want to talk about.
Let's see. Well, jerseys. I want to talk about logos and jerseys.
Okay.
All right. So based on this season, who do you think has the dopest logo? Or is there anything you like about the logos this season?
So I don't know. Bucks, they redid their logo, so I do like the Bucks logo. I like the Pelicans logo. Um, I've always liked the Celtics logo. The Lakers have never been a logo for me. I think they have a very bland logo.
Mm,
Uh, I mean, I got to give it to the Bulls, and it's really because the little secret things that are in the Bulls thing. If you ever noticed, the Bulls is the horns are red, and that means they've been killing people. They have blood on the tip of their horns.
notice
So
that. Yeah.
that little subtleness. I like the Mavs. I like the Mavs logo, and if you notice too, a little subtlety, a secret little thing they have in there on the forehead. There's the M for the
Mhm.
Mavericks, and it also too on the Bulls logo. If you turn it upside down, it looks like a crab reading a book. So those are some of the logos, just off the top of the head that I like. What are some of your favorite logos? What ones? And give me some ones that you don't like.
Ooh, some ones I don't like. I have to come back to that one. I'm with you on the Bulls and the Celtics. I think both of those logos are dope. I feel as though they always have been. Um, Hornets too. It might be a shock because even though the Hornets may not be a great team, I feel as though the Hornets have always and still to this day they got a dope logo with that hornet and the colors. I like
I
the
really love
Warriors.
I really love like the early '90s Hornets, like those '92, '93 Hornets, with the stinger out and the ball. I really love that Hornets logo. Speaking of that, I like the Orlando one with the stars and the sprinkling of magic dust and all that.
Yeah, yeah, that's dope. So yeah, I like the Warriors logo. And I like the Nets. I like the B with the ball and everything like that. I like the colors. And speaking of colors, I also like the Nets alternate jersey. They're the new city jerseys and stuff for this season. I like that little multicolored camo looking jersey. I like the Warriors, their black and gold San Fran jersey. I
I like
like
the
the Detroit,
Pacers alternate jersey.
the Pacer, the Indy one.
Yeah,
The Indy one, yeah, that's dope. That's on my list this season too. I like that. I like the Heat culture. Ironically, I just like the way the culture looks on it. I like the ATL. I like the simpleness of the ATL on the Hawks jersey. I like the colors of the Minnesota jersey. And I don't know if I got it out, but the Detroit, I like that cursive Detroit, that black and red. But yeah, I like all of
and the black and
those.
red, are those the ones that say Motor City?
Nah, it just says Detroit. It says Detroit in cursive.
Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm have to deep dive after the season. I haven't been a lot of Pistons games watching, so I'm going to have to pick up my Pistons games. I do like Sarah Thompson, and I watched a little bit of it, and I haven't watched them. But yeah, I do. So I haven't seen that one. I like the city ones for the Suns. I like everybody's city ones for the most part. I can't
Mm.
really think of a bad city one. I think the old school Warriors, the city jersey. I think those inspired those new city looks for the NBA. Do you think that's based off that?
What about the city jersey?
The Warriors, you remember their old jerseys from the '70s that
Yeah,
said the city?
yeah,
Okay,
that's
those
dope.
were
I
one of
like
the
that.
hardest jerseys of all time. And now
Yeah,
every NBA team has a city jersey. Do you
yeah,
think that just
because
was a
of that
random
dope.
occurrence, or do you think they looked at it like, oh, those Warriors, that's a classic one. Everybody loves those. Let's bring those back, for a monetary gain.
I definitely think it was for a monetary gain because when they brought the Warriors the city jerseys back, I remember. Well, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I do remember when they brought those jerseys back and the popularity of them. So they definitely saw the monetary gain back then. Excuse me. Also, real quick on the logos, I forgot to mention what logos I don't like. I don't mess with the Thunder logo. Um, I think it's trash. I don't know. I just don't like the way it looks, to be honest.
Well, you didn't tell us going back to the logo. What is your favorite logo?
My favorite logo, Bulls. Yeah, my
For the
favorite
same
logo is
reasons
the Bulls.
or is it just because you're a Chicagoan?
It's because I'm a Chicagoan. I spent many days drawing Benny. Yeah, and the bull itself, he just look hard. Like his face, he looks so stern. The horns ain't nothing to mess with. But yeah, that's my favorite logo, with probably the Hornets coming in at a second, Golden State third, Celtics fourth, and probably finish it off with the Nets.
No, I mean, you can't really argue with those rankings. I like how cocky the Celtics guy looks. He looks like he knows. He's got a little pot belly too, and he's got the cane. He just looks like he knows some shit that you don't.
Yeah, that man is hard. He got his little vest on and everything with his clovers and everything on the vest. Yeah, that man is he looked devious. He definitely
Do
looked
you think he's
devious.
supposed to represent? Do you think he's Irish?
I would hope that's what he's representing. I mean, they are the Celtics. He's supposed to be representing some Celtic.
Well, it's as someone who has a little Irish in him. I've just never seen an Irish man look like that. Although I've never been to Ireland either, so
Me
maybe
neither.
that's how they look over there. All that. So now
They
that
get
we
that
got the
backwards.
logos, all that. Speaking of logos, like I said though, the Bucks. Like I said, I like the redesigned look of the Bucks. But I did want to get into the Bucks about this. What do you think of Doc Rivers being 1-5 in the NBA All Star coach?
I think is ludicrous. I want to find out how they even came up with that. Like, what made them feel as though this is the requirement in order to be the coach, or this is the team you got to beat in order to be the coach? Like, what was the reason behind that? Just the fact that you have Lillard and Giannis, like, it's not like you've been coaching them all season. So that's a job that anybody could have done in an all-star game, coach them to. So that can't be the reason. He hasn't been working with them the whole time. So I don't know. I don't understand that decision.
Well, it's based off record, and the Bucks had the record at the time that the voting was cut off, and it was time to initiate who the All Star coach was. Doc even said himself that this is ridiculous. This is a stupid rule. He's going to call up Adam Silver, and he's going to say, see if he can get out of the game, and he'll go golfing for the weekend or something like that. However, he does want his assistants and all of them because those guys have been working all year long to coach the game. He also said too, when you coach the All Star game, you obviously get a bonus, and you also get a ring for coaching. He said he's going to send that to Adrian Griffin for, because he's the one that coached the team that year. I think the 1-5 start, I think the Adrian Griffin thing got a bad rep. I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. This is obviously me looking at it from a third party view. He obviously coached the team to one of the best records in the league. There was a lot of transition with Damian Lillard coming in. Obviously, your whole offense is going to be completely different when you have a top 75 player coming in versus a Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday's great, but he's a plug and play player. He's not your first option. So yeah, that and you have another guy averaging 30. So that was completely different. Obviously, getting rid of Drew Holiday, your defense is going to slip. They were, top 5 defense with him or whatever it was, and now they went. I think they slid to 22, and that's just to be expected. So I think this 1-5 start, like I said, and I don't wish anything bad for anybody, but it's kind of like Bucks management karma for this. These are the guys you traded to get a different player, and then you blame the coach when your defensive efficiency slips. Now, I don't know how that's his fault when you get, and Damian Lillard has been bad defensively forever. And all you got to do is look at the advanced stats, the different numbers. I don't have the numbers to read them all, but if you don't believe me, please go look. And I don't want to misquote the numbers. That's why I'm not going to read them, or come up with them. But yeah, I don't understand why they got rid of the coach who went 30-13 with a completely different roster. And not only that, they started off struggling, and they were picking it up as the games went on. Obviously, with cohesion, learning how each other played, learning how to cut, learning where they like the ball, just everything. So
Mhm.
I don't understand that. Do you think this is some sort of karmatic effect, or do you think that this is just when a new coach comes in, there's going to be ups and downs?
When a new coach comes in, there's definitely going to be ups and downs. That's what any team. It's very rare that you get inherited a team where you come in and they're just winners. Like, there's going to be some growing pains. I mean, you've seen some of the greatest players that have ever played the game come together, and they had some growing pains they had to learn. So, and this is the players. So then, of course, just imagine having to be the person to guide these players, having to be the person to try to give them plays and tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing on the court. That's going to take some time. So, yeah, I feel as though typical growing pains just come with the territory when you're a new coach. Also on the
You
doc thing, real quick,
go
and
ahead.
I'll let you get, huh?
Go ahead.
Oh, but yeah, real quick on the doc thing. In light of the fact that Doc himself feels it's ridiculous, it makes me feel a little less harshly towards it because he's at least acknowledging, this shouldn't be the rule. And also, and it had nothing to do with him. It had to do with just the way that the rules and the way the league is set up. So with that, it makes it a little easier to accept because I see that it was a fair thing versus favoritism.
So let me ask you this: if you were the commissioner and something like this happened, Doc Rivers, obviously the assistants, they get a bonus, they go, all that kind of stuff. Would you want to punish them for working as hard as they do to try to get the record that they got, or what would you do as the commissioner? Because obviously you don't want to reward Doc with one win. He acknowledges that because anybody that's not biased would. But then it takes away from the assistants, or would you move it to a different team, or what would you do? Because I personally, one of the rules I've always disliked is that a coach cannot coach the All-Star game 2 years in a row. I don't understand why that is. If you have the best record, players can go 2 years in a row. They can go 15, 20, they can go 80 years in a row. Why can't a coach go 2 years in a row? So what would you do in this scenario? What kind of rule would you put in place so this doesn't happen again?
It would be an option for me. I don't know that I would necessarily change the rule, but I think I will amend it. I think I'll put an option in whereas if there's something like this where the head coach is new or if the head coach comes while the season is already going for a winning team, so he inherits the all-star game coach, I feel as though he should have an option on whether or not he wants to accept that invitation.
And then if
And
he
then
turns down the acceptance, then do you just send all the assistants? Do you give another coach with the other team's assistants? What do you do at that point?
I send it down to the next coach. And the reason I say that is because I would imagine the head coach, like for instance, if he inherits a team where he gets to be the head coach, his assistants are coming with him if he does decide to accept it. But I feel as though that should be a conversation, amongst the team. Like when he's deciding whether or not he wants to accept it, he's having a conversation with his people and figuring out if that's something that they all want to do.
See, I think they should give it to another coach, whoever the next coach is, up on the wins and losses and the percentage. And then I would say that the assistants should still get the bonus. I think Adrian Griffin, like he said, I think Adrian Griffin should still get the bonus. So as the league, I would send the bonus, the rings, and all that. Or maybe it could be something like a Magic Johnson thing where he played in the '92 All-Star game, even though he wasn't in the league. So maybe even though Adrian Griffin got fired, maybe he can come back and still coach the All-Star game if he wants to take
Mm.
that option. Or do you think that's a ludicrous thing to say?
Um, I see. It's hard to say. To bring a coach in that's not actually in the league is kind of crazy. But I get the comparison to Magic, who was not in the league. But the reason Magic was out of the league was something different entirely. Magic left for health reasons, and at that point in time, due to how little knowledge that we had about his condition. Whereas to get fired from a team, that's the league telling you we don't want you here. So it's crazy to be like, we don't want you here, but at the same time, come host for a night.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think, for example, Adrian Griffin is out of the league through any fault of his own. If you coach your team to a 30-13 record, do you think that's grounds for firing?
No. I
So
mean,
that's
there's
my point
coaches.
there. He's not out of the league through any fault of his own.
No, I get that. I mean, there's plenty of coaches over history who had had coaching positions for years where they didn't have winning seasons for years. So I don't feel as though the way that the season started off was enough grounds to get rid of him. But who knows? Maybe they felt as though more could be done. Maybe they had higher expectations. Maybe they expected to have one of them historic seasons, even though they're not going to get it now because it's too late. But at the same time, who knows what their expectations was? Who knows what promises he may have made? Maybe he didn't make any. Um, but
Yeah,
I mean,
but Adrian Griffin isn't there to fulfill their expectations. He's there to do a job the best of his ability, and it is what it is. We've seen bunch of teams and players that didn't fill expectations, and that's not my. If you're expecting something out of me that I can't do, then that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Not necessarily. The reason I say that is because when you're appointed a certain position, sometimes that position comes with a certain expectation. That might not always be the case with every NBA team, but there are teams, there are dynasty teams, there are legacy teams who, upon appointing head coaches, they're expecting a certain turnout, they're expecting a certain payout, they're expecting certain successes from that coach. So
And
I
and,
feel
and
as
I
though,
agree with that. But I'm saying if you look at their records beforehand, 30 on 13 is on pace for them doing what they've been doing for years,
Mhm.
what they were doing in title run teams and things like that. So what's the issue? I'm doing the exact same thing you guys have been doing. We're on pace, you know what I mean, to be, as far as regular season go, same as we were when we were winning titles or won a title. What is the difference? And that's where I don't like, and that's where I think he got a shitty deal.
yeah, I mean, it could. I'm
He got a
not
shitty deal
disputing.
for
Yeah, and I'm not disputing the fact it could be personal. Not that you're saying it, but I'm saying in thinking, I'm not disputing the fact that it could be a personal thing or a personnel thing. I don't know. Like I don't
it.
know
No, either.
what they use to determine that.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna get hold of the Bucks. I'm gonna have them hire me and just let me know what goes on so I can report correctly, so we don't have to speculate.
We
And I'm gonna tell them. I'm say, yeah, and I'm gonna say if they have a problem with them, say, hey, it's your fault. You're the one out here got us speculating. You don't have the answers for us.
I quit moving
But
so weird.
what's up?
I'm tell
Quit
them quit
moving so
moving so
weird.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be moving weird. But anyways, yo, that's all we got for tonight. We're out. Sorry we were late. We will definitely, be on point on Monday. Matter of fact, we
Oh
are going to
yeah.
be on so much on point. You can call us Chris Paul from now on. And that's all I got to say. You want to say anything to the people before we go?
Yo, catch us on Monday.
All
See
right.
how the
So
hoop
we
go.
are the HoopStorians. Oh, make sure you catch us on Monday. Like I said, we have a guy coming in. He has I think it's a NBA Galaxy Universe or NBA Universe Galaxy, something like that. Very anti-Jordan, says Jordan is not one of the top 100 players. We even have the boss coming on, Fluent himself. He said he wants to, make some points, hear what he's got to say, things like that. So, yeah, this guy says Jordan is not in the top 100, and I've never heard anybody say anything like that. So, Monday should be an interesting show. He says he has
Ridiculous.
points and views that nobody ever sees and nobody ever knows. So, make sure you guys check that out. Until then, we are the HoopStorians. He is unique, the best rapper you've never heard of. I am Tony Styles. And remember, we are dropping dimes like Dare. Have a fun and safe weekend. We'll catch you all Monday.